and this is episode 4 of the Lifestylepreneur podcast. And my next guest is Susan Harrow, where we talk in depth about how to get booked and double your business from TV. Welcome to the Lifestylepreneur podcast. I'm your host, Kris Gilbertson, and I'm an author, speaker, and an expert on how to help you launch your own successful podcast. And the reason I designed this show is to help you create a business that allows you to live the lifestyle of your dreams. Tune in every Friday as I'll be interviewing top experts and lifestylepreneurs from all over the world who will share with you actionable training and advice to give you the insider track on taking your business to the next level. I'm going to work really hard for you to pull out the most incredible nuggets of training from all of these experts. And the best part, it's all free just for you. And be sure to join us at www.lifestyleacademy.com and subscribe to receive your free 3-part mini podcast course to help you launch your own podcast and on your way to generating free leads, traffic, and sales on autopilot and creating the platform for your lifestyle business. Plus, I'll also be sending you the cliff notes from the best of the best trainings on the podcast, delivered right to your inbox to make it easy for you to implement these strategies and move forward in your business. Now, let's get started. Well, welcome everyone. I'm so excited for our show today. I have an absolute fantastic guest that you are all going to love. Her name's Susan Harrow, and she is a media coach for women entrepreneurs. She's the author of Sell Yourself Without Selling Your Soul, a women's guide to promoting herself, her business, her product, or her cause with integrity and spirit. She's the founder of your Signature Soundbites course, and she writes regularly for the Huffington Post and Psychology Today. And Susan is absolutely amazing at what she does. She helps talent-driven, highly original entrepreneurs clarify their messages, set up their systems, craft their signature sound bites, and then get life-changing media exposure. And just to give you an idea of who she's helped her clients receive media with, you're going to be blown away. She's helped people with CBS, 60 Minutes, Oprah, Good Morning America, the Today Show, Fox News, Bill O'Reilly, Larry King Live. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. Almost every single network she's been able to help her clients get access to and get in front of for media exposure, but then also double and triple their business. So what Susan's going to be talking about today for us is 5 ways to get famous without selling your soul. So Susan, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'd love to get a copy of that, what you just said, because you said some really wonderful things that I hadn't thought of myself. And, that's one of the great things about when you're doing media is that you listen to how the professionals position you from the information that you've given them. So you've taken some of my information that I got and you put an interesting twist on some of the things that I hadn't thought of. So if you have that written out, I am serious. I really would.
Absolutely.
And so to be listening for that all the time when you're doing media, and what kind of questions people ask you over and over and over again, because typically there'll be some sort of pattern.
Right.
So that was always a great lesson for me just now to remember to hear you packaging me in a little bit different way than I packaged myself.
That's a great point. I love that too, because we get the different outside perspective of what other people see you as and how you can present. So I'm just so excited for us to connect today and what we're going to be going over. So first, I want you to start with just telling us how you broke into the field and became an expert.
That's so funny because it's such an evolution. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, a lot of people say that they don't really feel like experts, or that there's, that we're all on this path, and it's sort of like a perspective of where we are in our areas of expertise.
Right.
So, I started as a publicist, which is booking people in the media. And that was baptism by fire, because that was really something where I had no idea what I was doing. I was in a writing course with another woman who was doing PR for Bill Graham Presents and Title IX Sports and the North Face.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she had worked at the North Face as their PR director. And she just said, I want to learn PR. Can I come sit with you? And listen, so it really was baptism by fire. And the first thing that she did was say, get on the phone and start calling people. And I said to her, well, can I listen to you first? Because I had no idea what to say.
Right.
So she made 2 phone calls, and then I got on the phone and started calling people. And then that evolved to She didn't really love to meet with clients, so I went and met with like Missy Park. She was one of my very first clients of Title IX Sports. She was a 2-person operation then, and now she's the second largest women's sports, I don't know what you call it. Well, she doesn't manufacture it, but she gives, she has a whole catalog of women's sports outfits.
Right.
Anyway, so we started, I started with her and she became my very first client. And then I realized the evolution of that was that I could book my clients on all the top shows, as you had announced me. And what I realized that what happened sometimes was a great big nothing. Like P.T. Barnum said, what's, the worst thing that can happen, is that nothing.
Right.
Worst show in the world.
And I've heard that a lot, that a lot of people go on, they get on Oprah, and then nothing, they didn't sell the million books they thought they were going to.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So the issue is them. And not knowing what to say in order to engage the audience and engage the media and encourage people, get them connected so they'll buy.
Yeah.
So they'll like, trust, respect, believe in you, and then buy from you.
Exactly.
And that's when I started training my clients on that. And that's when I switched to specifically media training.
Oh, perfect. And just before we kind of get into more of your training on how you coach people, because it is truly brilliant, and I think it's the most important foundational skill to have as an entrepreneur, our communication and how to get our messages out there. But how did you have had such success with all of your clients. Vogue, Vanity Fair, Reebok, you name it, it's everywhere. Now, how did you figure out your process? Because you work with all different people in all different types of industries.
So the process is that I started taking people through, and I didn't know what the process was at first, and the first thing that I did was I started noticing what kind of questions I asked over and over again to my clients. And so then what I did with that is I put them in a form, questionnaires that I think you got.
Yeah.
Questionnaires of these are the kinds of questions that I'd like to know that I was asking of every client that could streamline the process.
Right.
So that's what I started to do. That was my first sort of system, was that I took all the questions that I typically asked so I could expedite our work together and make it faster and more efficient. And I'm always looking for the most joyful, most fast and efficient way possible.
I love it. Yes. Yeah.
So that was the first thing that I did, was create those questionnaires. So it's like I could see exactly where you are by how you answer the questionnaires, and I see exactly where the gaps are and what you need and how well you know your subject and how well you know what to expect from the media. So
Right.
I understand that exactly. And then when we got on the phone, like on one-on-one, I start to ask you a series of questions that I've also mapped out. And one of the 3 questions that I ask everyone, and I think I asked you too, that are the foundation for your sound bites are: number 1, how do you want to serve? What's your deepest intention? Number 2, what do you want for yourself? And this is very measurable, concrete in terms of, do you want speaking engagements? Do you want, like you get, am I allowed to reveal this?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. For you, you want to focus on your podcasting course, also doing work for corporations, doing it for corporations, and then you also want to do more speaking engagements and be on TV. So those are and be on TV and maybe have your own show. So that's going to form the basis of how we establish what you're going to say. And then the last thing is, what action do you want your audience to take? What do you actually want people to do? And a lot of people forget about all these 3 things. And they just follow the lead, like they're led by the nose, by the questions. And this is not going to get what you want. This is not going to double or triple your business. When you follow this system and answer those 3 questions and then create your sound bites around those questions, that's what drives business, partnerships, sales, and experiences, both personally and professionally, for you.
Yeah, and it's just brilliant. And I just love going through that process myself too, because going on TV or interviews, people don't realize what they don't know and how you're being led and how it's not getting set up. So just asking even that second question of what are the results that you want, and then reverse engineering how you set that up. It's just brilliant how you do that.
It is reverse engineered. And then a lot of people come to me once they've been burned by the media. Oh, they say PR doesn't work, or I said something shameful, I said something I'm afraid of, or I looked really bad. So really, you don't want to do that.
Right.
media trained before you ever contact the media. And that's really, really important.
Now, who do you typically work with?
I work with entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, and everyone from Fortune 500 CEOs to celebrity chefs. So I have 2 of my celebrity chefs competing on Iron Chef. I don't actually know who won, but there were 2 of them competing at the same time against each other. Yeah.
I love that.
And I love people, and people who are socially conscious are incredibly fun. So people who have something, what I'm looking for, and this is one thing that I recommend people say, is I would love someone who has chocolate and fashion. I'm really keen right now to balance out my socially conscious. I do a lot of work in the socially conscious field, and I love to work in that field. Anybody who's working with kids, but if anybody has like a fabulous fashion or food product, I love to work on those kinds of things as well. So.
I love it. That's fantastic. And you love to work with people that the industries you like as well too. So I think that's great. So what roadblocks to success did you have as an entrepreneur?
I thought about that because there were some of these questions that you asked me to think about ahead of time to really mull over. And I think the biggest thing is this the question where I should answer, what would I do again over again?
That's the last question.
Oh, it is?
We're giving it away. No, this is more just because I think as entrepreneurs, there's always roadblocks. There's always things that come up. And I just like to hear what you've overcome through your path that can help others.
I think, and I didn't mean to do a spoiler.
Oh, no, you're fine. Everybody knows. Everybody gets asked that question.
Okay. So I think the biggest thing for me is that I'm not a natural extrovert. I'm a trained extrovert. Really, I'm much more introverted. Yeah.
I like that, trained extrovert.
Yeah, but I do love connecting with people, but in little bursts. And then I need lots of time to myself.
Right.
So the biggest challenge for me is that, and even my assistant, Kelly, is always saying, you have to get out and speak more. And I'm like, but I don't really want to. Right. So really what I recommend to others too, you don't have to speak if that's not what you want to do. I do really love giving webinars. I like speaking once in a while. I actually love being on TV because it's 4 minutes and it's done.
Right.
It takes longer to do your makeup than it does to be on the show. Right? So I actually love TV because it's super fast and I really like the super fast pace. And so, but I don't love speaking because I don't really love to hear myself talk for an hour or 3 hours at a time. For me, that's me personally. That's you want to speak, so you feel comfortable with that. So I had to get a little bit out of my comfort zone. I did do a lot of speaking. I did train at the Learning Annex, but it was not easy for me.
Right.
Yeah. So to overcome that and to decide how much outgoing kind of activity do I want for my level of comfort, just beyond my comfort zone. I do recommend that you go beyond your comfort zone, but not too far out of your comfort zone, because otherwise I think that there's a way to get in your own groove or whatever you want. If you're more introverted, do more writing. Or, do more webinars or do more teleclasses where people don't need to see you. So there's always ways, you don't have to be gallivanting around the country. So I have to figure that out for myself and also not cave into external pressures. I have been recently invited to China. I will probably go.
Oh, tell us about that.
It was an invitation. It's not necessarily solid right now, but it's China. I would love to go to China. I have friends in Singapore, and I'd love to go to Thailand and all of that. So I take that into consideration. Wow. How often, that would be really great experience. And even though it makes me really nervous, I'll take it. If that gets offered to me, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So those are the kinds of things that you have to measure, I think, for yourself.
And I love that because it's setting your business up for your lifestyle. You're designing your lifestyle by design. You're still pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, but it's not where you're constantly out there in an uncomfortable state where it's not fun and it's not engaging and enjoyable. In the world we live in today, it's amazing. You don't have to be a full-time speaker anymore. Most of the, you look at the Zig Ziglars and all the amazing speakers that brought up, they were constantly traveling, but today it's a different platform. So we have so much technology. So I appreciate you sharing that because I'm an extrovert. I'm all about energy. And some people are like, Kris, how, I'm not like that. And I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to be like that. It's your personality and how people resonate with you. So I love that. That's fantastic. And it's finding that. I think it's a journey all its own as we continue in business. It just keeps evolving for what we want.
And there's a place for everybody. And it's really finding that little sweet spot for you and then really delving in deeply in that for your own style, your own pacing, and what works for you. It's got to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's got to work. You can't say, "Well, I'm going to sit at home," if it's not working.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's got to work.
What works for you and gets results that you can have fun with and enjoy. Exactly. I love it. Excellent. So let's go in. So I want you to talk about the 5 ways to get famous without selling your soul. So what's the most important thing to do before you call the media in your process?
It's to get your system set up. So oftentimes people barrel forward with publicity without being set up on the back end. And that is not to your best interest. I had one client who was already very well known and who actually got called out to be on the Today Show, and she was leaving that Monday for a Thursday. So I was media training her on a Sunday. I read her book on Saturday, I media trained her on Sunday. And then the first thing I did was look at the website, and I saw that it wasn't set up properly for the kind of impact to be on the Today Show. So instead of jumping right into media training, what we jumped into right then is how to optimize her website. So there were 2 main big things where there was not a big opt-in box in the right-hand corner, which so many people, forget. Mm-hmm. And so there wasn't a super easy way, a clear path to buy. And then the third thing was she had lots of opportunities for other products on the back end that I saw from reading her manuscript and knowing how they're already very well established and very famous. So I knew that they could pull together some of these product packages. So what I recommended, as I said, before you leave, can you pull together, and I recommended several different packages in order to maximize, because when somebody lands on their website, it wasn't just about selling the book, which is going to be $1.50 in their pocket, because it's a major publisher. It was about how could they maximize on their products and services on the back end before she had the Today Show opportunity. Because otherwise you're losing all of that impact and income.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So real simple, just to have the opt-in where people are signing up for your list and subscribing, and then your product offering. Now with that, do you suggest that being on the same page or like a separate website where you refer people over to, or on the same website? Because I've seen people do different things and it can be confusing in the media because you don't have much time. You have very little time.
What you want to do is set up for several different levels. So the first level is somebody is not necessarily ready to even buy your book, but they're going to get an excerpt or a sample of your product, whatever that is. But so the first level is just an opt-in. You want their name and email address. Mm-hmm. And the second level may actually be, and there's a special report or something that goes along with that, right? A gift or some sort of gift. Then the second level is to buy a small product or service. So you want to have that. So you want to be set up for the different levels depending on how ready someone is when they arrive at your website. So you want to give them several choices. And part of that choice may be, and this may be too much detail for us to go into on the back end, but maybe that's something that you offer them after they've purchased or after they've opted in. There's so many ways to do this. Like some people say, I've done it where you opt in and then I offer you something for 99 cents. Mm-hmm. And then, maybe the next offer is for $25 or whatever. So there's lots of different ways to set that up. But the main point is to have different entryways for where someone is ready in the beginning. And so that can be set up. There's so many different options of setting that up. That's what we talk about in your consult, before you go, before you actually appear in the media or do a media interview. We discuss all of that. So you're already set up so you can have the maximum success. So you can then double or triple your business, sometimes with one appearance.
Wow, that just amazes me.
It is. It's amazing. But it has to do with getting set up well on the back end first.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Having your funnel and having it all set up. So I love that. And I love that you teach that because media, you do have to be prepared. It's not just jump right in. You want to have yourself set up. So that leads me into the next step where people can actually double or triple. So because you talk about sound bites and how powerful they are. And I've heard that before. And I knew that, but I never knew how to put my own together until I met you. And so why do they work and why are they so powerful?
Yeah, so you need to prep your sound bites because that is what is going to, people they size you up in 3 seconds. So first, it's the visual impact, and we know we like, trust, believe, and we'll buy from you in those 3 seconds. But after those 3 seconds, then you have to continue to capture their attention. And that's with sound bites. And sound bites are so important because they're really the important messages that you want to give in every interview. And they're a combination of everything from stories, statistics, facts, anecdotes, analogies, and acronyms. And you want to have a mix of those kinds of things. And they're put into the natural flow of conversation. They're not the conversation itself, but it's your key points that you want your audience to know, so you can draw in the kind of business partnerships and experiences you want. And that's how they're set up. So every single time, you may not be using the exact same sound bites for the exact same audience. It really depends on your audience. But to start out, you want 6 of them, and they're really set up to speak directly to your audience of how you can help. So really, they answer 2 questions. What does my audience need to know now, and how can I help? Mm-hmm. And then they're made up of examples of those kinds of things, like success stories, simple success stories, like you and I were going over. Like, I was asking you about some of your success stories. So when you were talking about when, someone, increased their podcasting readership by 500%. Mm-hmm. And then you tell a little bit of background of how that happened.
Exactly.
And your part in it. Your part. Not just who did it, but how did they do it with your help?
Exactly. And how they are set up is just brilliant. So I might be putting you on the spot, but do you have some examples of some sound bites for people?
Yeah. So let me just think of one. So my client, Sarah Gottfried, who was on the Ricki Lake show, and I was prepping her for the Today Show as well, and for Dr. Oz. One of the things that really stood out when she was doing Ricki Lake is she said, you have to take tiara time for yourself. So instead of saying self-care, right, tiara time, and what she do, she popped on a tiara. Perfect. And Ricki Lake popped on her tiara, and Ricki Lake said, I don't want to take it off. Right? And so the headline would just be, you have to take tiara time. So what that means is, and then the rest of the soundbite would be, what that means is that you need to tell your husband and your kids, you can't talk to me. You can't, you need to leave me alone for a half an hour. I'm going to close the door now. And when I close the door, you people will be gone.
Exactly.
Right?
Mama's tiara time.
Mama's tiara time. And so something as simple as that, because it has to be super fast for TV.
Right.
So that's a quick soundbite, for TV. So another one of my clients who, let me just think of another one who, you want one in a different field.
Yeah, I love it, because I think it's so great because people hear them, but it's great to get the examples of it and how people can use that then to transition to where they want the media to go.
And that's a really super short one. Yep. Some are a little bit longer, and some are based on the foundational story, which is one of the things that you and I were talking about of what it is that you want to convey that at the very beginning of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And what is it that you want that conversation to be about, and to talk about your particular foundation story. So I remember talking to Angela Gia Kim, who was Savor the Success. Mm-hmm. So I interviewed her way a long time ago, before Savor the Success was so successful, right? And one of her stories, which I love, is that she created her product line. Let me not give away the punchline first. So let me start back. She was a professional pianist, before she started her Savor the Success membership site. So she was on stage, and before she went on stage, she slathered up her whole body with lotion, so she'd be smooth and beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. She broke out in a rash everywhere. Oh, no. And she still had to go out, and because she was allergic to some of the things that were
How horrible would that be?
Horrible. And then she's got to go and give this she's beautifully dressed, and this classical pianist, recital.
Performance, yeah.
Yeah. And this woman came up to her afterwards and said, you are as red as your dress. And then she said, in that moment, that was an aha moment for her, where she said, I need to create natural products that are really beautiful, that don't harm your skin, that are really good for you. And then she created her Om line, which is very successful. She's got a store now in New York. She didn't have a store then.
Wow.
That's how she created her line of products.
That's amazing.
So some of those foundational stories are based on an aha moment or something, a pivotal moment in what happens to us. So but not everybody has aha moments or pivotal moments. So there's all kinds of stories like that. That's one type of story, is the aha or pivotal moment.
Yeah. And I love
that's great, but that's one type, that's one format.
Exactly. And like for me, for my example, when you were helping me, it was more of how my experience has led up to now where I'm at and how I can help people. And it's just bringing that together for people, even because I wasn't
your past experience. So what we're doing with you is saying, okay, you've had this great experience in real estate, and you had this great experience with online education, and how do we bring that to what that means for podcasting?
Exactly.
So it's connecting those two and then creating a story, making that connection for the audience.
Exactly.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't see that right away. They don't see the connection. Frank Kern was a dog trainer. Okay, so Frank Kern was a dog trainer. How does that relate what he does today? Oh, well, because it's behavioral. He would train dogs to behave properly by giving signals and rewards. He's doing the exact same thing with his psychology today.
Yes, he is.
So if we did Frank Kern's bio, we could say, my success in dog training, I'm doing the same thing with people now. I'm just training people. Right? I'm just giving them rewards and teaching them how to behave in a way that gets them more business online. So that would be a soundbite for Frank Kern, in case you're listening, Frank.
Yes, I love it. It's fantastic, though, and that's brilliant. And they're not that. It's just shortening it up, making it simple for everybody to connect the dots. Because I noticed, for myself, I think a lot of us, we've got great information. We're very, very passionate about our business, but we're throwing dots left and right. We've got fire hoses going on with our marketing messages, and people are just like, "What do you do?" So
most people have War and Peace, and we have to move it into haiku. And haiku is a totally different language.
Yeah,
it's a truncated sort of language that we don't normally speak. So learning to speak in sound bites is really like speaking French or German or Italian.
It is.
It is. It's a different way of expressing yourself.
But it's an aha moment. It's an epiphany. Just from us working together and the transitions that happen for me, it literally makes so much clarity then on how you can get your message out there. And now I can see how getting booked on media, because before I didn't quite get it, how you could double or triple your business. Now I see how that all comes together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, so you didn't see that before.
I really didn't, because, I think it's because I heard a lot of stories from people that weren't set up right, that didn't quite get the media that they wanted. And there's a lot of that negative out there. And I'm like, well, why? What makes... because I do a lot of webinars, but, there's all these other media platforms I want to get into, but it's how do you take advantage of it, get the ROI as the business owner, because our time is so valuable and where we spend it. So, and that's where I want to talk about now is what's the quickest way then to get the media's attention?
And before I go on that, I just had a thought, because I was talking to one of my clients this morning who I'm going to have take your course right away.
Oh, fantastic.
She's such a great talker. She's such a great talker. Yeah. And and she always has these fantastic ideas. And I think podcasting is the quickest way to get them out, because it's faster. And I know she has been in the media, and she's been an anchor and all of that. So she has lots of experience in front of the camera. Yeah, and she's great.
That's fantastic.
But one of the things that we were talking about is she's like, well, how is podcasting going to sell my products?
See?
And I said, yes. Yeah. And I said, well, we're going to use the same principles of media coaching, the same kinds of things, is that you're going to weave it into the conversation. And also, at the very beginning, you're going to be able to give your bio, and you're going to be able to talk about your products. And then you're going to relate whatever products that you have to whatever the news is of the day that you're talking about, and how your product relates to that. And it's as simple as making that it's as simple and as difficult as making that connection.
Exactly. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Sometimes people can't do it for you. She didn't see it. And I said, okay, here's how we do it. And I just gave her a quick example of that, and then she got it.
Exactly. And it's painting that picture for them. So that's brilliant.
So it's doing the same thing in your podcast, because what you're trying to do in your podcasting is not just have people listen in the moment, but you want them to engage further. So how do you get them to engage further? How do you get them to your website? How do you get them to then opt in, to engage, to buy, to be part of your community? So you're upping the ante each time. So it's the same exact principle that you can use in your podcasting.
Exactly.
Weaving that into the conversation.
Yep.
To answer your question, I forgot what your next
question. I'll repeat it. So the next question is then, so we're ready to go to the media. So what's the quickest way to get the media's attention?
Okay, great. And by the way, like if you're like me who just forgot the question.
Have you done that on air before?
You'll hear it oftentimes on radio interviews. You get off on a tangent, then you go,
What was that?
What's your question?
Yeah.
So it's totally fine to ask if no shame in saying, where was I? And that's the same goes for when you're in the audience too. Like if you're actually in the middle of a speech, like people are freaked out that they get like deer in the headlights and they've forgotten, you can always ask the audience for help.
Yeah.
Now you can't do that in the TV studio if you're only in 4 minutes. But if you're on stage and you've forgotten where you are, you can just say to people, where was I? And then they'll all volunteer. Oh, you just finished up. You were going to tell us about this and that. So it's fine to do that.
Yep.
So the next point was, okay, so you asked me, what was the most important? What was the question again?
No problem. What's the quickest way to get the media's attention?
Oh, good. And so I'm looking at my notes here, which is also fine to do on TV or anything, because I made myself some very quick notes, so I want to say, so the quickest way to get media attention is to write an enticing headline. Here's the thing. You don't write an enticing headline, the media is not going to listen or pay attention any further.
Right.
It's the same thing with your podcasting, I'm sure. If you don't have a great story, or if you don't capture people's attention in the first 3 seconds, they're not going to listen to the rest of the podcast.
Exactly.
So think of this as your podcasting headline or your
YouTube video headline, your blog post headline, any of it.
That's right. Anything.
Yeah.
Like everything has to be search engine optimized. This is search engine optimized for your brain.
Yeah, I love that. It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's search engine optimized for your brain to get the media's instant attention. Like one of my clients, one of my clients was writing about what's the best gift for Mother's Day. Okay. And it's like, and then we were switching it to Father's Day too. What's the best gift for Father's Day? Okay. What does a father want? Father wants one thing: good behavior. Doesn't want a gift. He wants you boys to stop fighting.
Right.
Can you
That's
boys
cute.
stop fighting for 1 minute? That was my mother's wish always as we were growing up. I had 2 brothers, right?
Oh.
Can you just stop fighting? That's what do I want for my birthday, just for you? And they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So, want a headline, and we created some headline like, well, what do dads want? They don't want a gift. They want the kicking, and screaming to stop. Kicking, screaming, and fighting to stop.
Yep.
It's your headline.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah. Now, is there a way to get the media attention? Because you before, when you were calling companies, that's what you did to get in front of people. But today with the internet now, do you suggest having like a squeeze page or, just a single website that has a video that would be related to the news of today that could get you booked? Or what is your strategy to help people get the attention?
Yeah, let's talk about both. Push and pull. Let's talk about the 2 different ways. So first of all, on your website, you do want to have a quick demo video. If you're looking for TV, you need to have a 2-minute video. That's like a mock interview or a local interview. You want to have your press page set up. So you want to have the topics that you can discuss. You want your bio that's media friendly. You want whatever you're promoting on there. You want your list of topics. You want all of those things so the press can find you easily. Mm-hmm. So that's when someone's searching for you. That's how they find you. Keywords set up. You've written on these topics. That's how because now more than ever, journalists are not so much paying attention to their inboxes as they are going out and searching for people who they know that they need for their particular articles, okay? Right. So it is really important to have your website and your web presence set up in that way. How many times you've been interviewed, they'll find that in the LexisNexis databases. So if you've been interviewed on that topic, all of that will come up when they're researching it. So that's really important. The second aspect of that is also, so that's pull. So there's one other aspect of pull, and that's to join like Harrow, help a reporter out.com. Then you can search the queries every day and see, so you get that in your inbox every day, and you can look under your particular topic. It's set up by topics: entertainment, technology, health, so that sort of thing. And then you can see whether someone's looking for a story that you can comment on. That's really the quickest way and easiest way because you don't have to manage a database.
Yeah, I love Harrow. It's wonderful.
It's fantastic.
It is.
It's an art to responding to that. And I have a webinar called The Zen of Fame that talks about that.
Yeah. So, and we'll have that in the show notes too, because that was going to be my next question, but that's a whole nother tangential conversation.
Mm-hmm. So that's pull. And then the push, where you're actually putting things out is like with my client for Mother's Day, we sent out a press release to radio in particular, so she can talk about Father's Day. So that's the push where then you're actually getting the radio producers to call you for a pre-interview. Lots of times on the bigger shows, they do an audition. Yeah, for NPR and the bigger shows, you're going to get pre-interviewed. You're not just going to get on.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. That's interesting. So you want to plan for that in your marketing strategy too, of the how long does that take then typically for a pre-interview to actually then get booked?
Well, it depends on how long their lead time is, but the key is that if you don't pass that interview, you're not going on to the next. Yeah, you're not going. And that actually happened to one of my clients. So, I mean, a publisher hired me for their author who was very promising, but who had just failed an NPR interview. And it was a very important book. And so they really needed to be able to get him on these shows in order to get him booked. And so what happened was he could not contain his very large ideas in a conversational, interesting way. So there were two aspects of that. Number one, he couldn't maintain the conversation. In other words, the radio producer did not think he was interesting enough to keep their attention for the 10-minute interview.
Wow.
The second part of that was he didn't have his sound bites down, so they nixed him. And they had some other really big radio shows lined up. That's why they hired me. And after I media trained him, just 4 hours, which is, in 4 hours, he was able to speak his sound bites. And then the next interview, that audition he passed, and he got on some very big radio shows. Yay! And then he made a presentation to President Obama.
Wow.
Yeah.
See,
so now
that's amazing.
You would not have been able. So you don't know where those kind of opportunities are going to happen when you have your sound bites down. And that's what I talk about, like when I'm talking about personally and professionally, and you don't know what's going to happen, what's out there.
Right.
That's the kind of thing that can happen.
But that's what's so exciting about it. That's what I love. And taking the time to get it done right, so then when you are out there, it can literally explode for you.
It takes a life of its own. And that's the beauty of the media, of where they can reach these places that you have no idea who you're touching.
Right.
And you have no idea who you're going to draw back to you and what kind of opportunities will open up.
Exactly.
Because it's not just always about doubling or tripling your business.
Right.
It's about meeting people, like the president.
Yes.
It's like getting experiences and meeting incredible people. Like I have a dream, I'm writing a young adult book, right? That we're not going to talk about what the content is exactly, but it's a young adult book. But part of I have a list of the people that I then want to meet, that book is going to give me the opportunity to meet. So I'm already setting that up in my mind of like, who do I want to connect with who can help me with this particular topic that I think will be able to bring it to a broader audience.
Exactly.
So those are some of the things that I actually think about. And you should too when you're doing your media. It's like, well, what else do I want? Like, how big can I open my world up?
Exactly.
It's not just about my business, but how big can I open up my world up? Where do I want to meet Richard Branson on his island? Do you know what I mean? Do you want to travel to India and live in an ashram?
Exactly. Have that vision board plastered. I mean, my vision board is literally a wall with all different images.
Really, I love it.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. To add to that, is that's such a great point that all entrepreneurs should be doing, because our gift is the ability to visualize. I mean, that's one of our best gifts on how we with our ability as an entrepreneur. So definitely dream big, because you never know who you can connect with and what you can manifest that way.
Yeah. I mean, I love Carol Adrian, she was one of my first clients too. She wrote The Purpose of Your Life, and she worked with James Redfield. Yeah. And one of the things that she said, way long time ago, and I did my first live media training at her house.
Oh, wow.
At Carol Adrian's house. Yeah. So that was it's a kind of big experiment. But anyway, one of the things that she said that I just love is her mantra every day is, may I meet good people.
I love that.
I love that too, because that's really what we're talking about. I mean, we're really talking about meeting other great people, like I met you through, crazy, right? Like we did this through the internet.
Exactly.
Which opens up such a wide world. And the media is just like the internet on steroids.
Absolutely. So that's awesome. So now that we've gotten the media's attention, what's the best way to show that you're an authority?
So the best thing after you write your headline you need to show that you're the one, and that you're the one who can speak to this topic right now in the way that that person wants their topic to be spoken about. So there's a couple of aspects of that, and it can go both ways. The first way is that you ask before you tell, which is, what do you have in mind? So you can hear what they're thinking first before you open your mouth.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
And then you shape whatever they want to what you're going to say. Because again, we have this War and Peace book, and we have to now shape it not only into haiku, but like a line of haiku.
Right.
For the producer or the editor, or the journalist of the moment.
Exactly.
So instead of you starting to talk just madly, you want to completely narrow it in, and they'll narrow it in for you. And therefore, you can know much more concisely what you want to speak about.
That's fantastic. Now, does it work for every type? Are certain media channels looking for specific industry experts?
Well, I think it depends more on the topic of the day. I mean, news people are interested in commentators or people who are experts in certain areas, or like if somebody gets food poisoning, they're going to be looking for an expert in how to get your child better quickly, or what's the quickest way to get them, what's the best thing to do when your child eats rat poisoning or whatever. So it doesn't really matter what your topic is. It's about connecting that topic to what's useful to other people.
Right.
In the moment. And then that will determine what's your media outlet and who you should best connect with.
Right.
So that really, it's you determining where your strengths are first versus, where do I want to be? I mean, yes, you can say, where do I want to be? But I think it's better if you determine who you can help and how, and then look for those outlets and those kinds of circumstances that will allow you to do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. Okay, so the big question where, a lot of people have come to you where they failed publicly and then now they want to, get back in the public eye and
Yes.
have success. So after you've gotten publicized, how do you capitalize on it?
Yeah, so you want to multiply on that success. So, of course, you want to put that on your website.
Mm-hmm. As seen on.
Yeah, as seen on. And also, you want to then, as soon as you've had that kind of success, any kind of success that you've had, you want to think about how you can tweak the angle. So if you can tweak the angle, if you've been on Good Morning America, you can't go on the Today Show and talk about exactly the same thing.
Right.
You have to tweak it to those particular shows or different media outlets. So you might have a niche that's been spun one way, and you want to think about how I can take this and turn it around a number of other ways. Like a woman on our webinar this morning that we were doing was talking about she had like wellness for women, and I had actually spoken to her before, so I knew that part of her thing was about women and body image.
Oh.
And I said, well, that is like a really hot topic right now. Instead of talking about quote unquote wellness, you want to talk about what's going on in the news with women and their bodies. Like when Christina Hendrickson, of Mad Men, some people thought she was great the way she was, and then she went and lost 30 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then so some women were in uproars, like she should have kept her curves, and other people are like, good for her because she was too tubby. So you have an automatic link to what's going on in the culture today. We can look at TV, we can look at, what's happening with celebrities, but you can also look at, if there's an issue of a girl died from anorexia. Mm-hmm. All of those things are opportunities for you to jump into the media for an angle to what it is. And you just have to keep an eye out for that, and then look at how you can take your one topic and change it slightly for different mediums, meaning TV, radio, and print, and also for different particular outlets. Good Morning America, CNN, all of those are going to have slightly different angles to the way that they present their information. And you want to be able to set that up so it's right for each particular outlet. Because when you're dealing with the bigger programs, you do want to personalize it exactly for them. You're not sending out a mass email necessarily.
Right. Now, so should you be searching on the networks of what they're talking about in the news on their channels and see how you can weave that in?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because that's the quickest way to get media attention. If there's a hot topic that's happening now, like one of my clients, she talked about like healing and forgiving and stuff, but she was, a former lawyer, and she really had very concrete steps to doing that. It wasn't woo-woo stuff. So when it was back in the Columbine shootings, she was in line to be booked on Oprah to talk about forgiveness and how to handle grief. So it was, number one, how to handle grief, and then how to forgive, not in a woo-woo way, again, in a like really concrete way. To do that. So that was very super topical. And then she got on Fox News to talk about, it was sort of controversial, where some people were saying, it was on 9/11, where people were saying, why do we resurrect that anniversary every year? It's just digging in the pain. And then there's another side saying, we don't want to forget. So she was like straddling in the middle, saying that it's not about forgetting, but it is about healing. And we need to do this in this way. So it was the topic was 9/11, but her expertise is in that forgiveness and healing, and how to do that while still remembering an important occasion. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's helping
tie things in.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's great. So I love the media training that you do and how this all works, because it's just so exciting to see what your clients have been able to do. Can you share some of the stories of what's happened for some of their businesses after being on some of the big networks?
Yeah. So I have clients who are #1 New York Times bestsellers. I got clients who've sold 50,000 units of something. So let me think of so really, the kind of thing that can happen is it really varies, and some of it is some of it's not one appearance. It's like a snowball appearance. Like when I was a publicist, I worked with Larry Magid, who wrote the Little PC book, and what created that in terms of being a really great seller was, #1, I got him on a Christian station that I had no idea the power of the Christian station, but it was whenever this guy said buy, everybody every single person in his audience went out and bought the book, and the publisher called me up and said, get more Christian radio stations. And then the second thing that happened with him is, it was at this time out here in California where Polly Klaas was kidnapped out of her house. And he set up on the internet, this was when the internet was new. He set up a picture of the possible kidnapper, and a picture of her, so people nationwide could search for both of them. This was brand new then. And then Time magazine called him an internet hero, called him a hero. Yeah. And then that created a whole shift in his career. When we were talking about how people's careers can shift, he then started SafeKids.com. He started working with AOL. He started winning all of these awards. So not only did his book become a bestseller, but his whole business shifted.
Right.
Now he's a technology correspondent for, I think, CBS. He was already very well entrenched in the media, but then he got a regular gig talking about technology and people. Right. And our behavior. You see, so
that's amazing.
It became a bestseller, but his whole career opened up into a new area that he hadn't even conceived of. Just because in that one moment where he heard about Polly Klaas, he thought, what can I do?
Right.
Winona Ryder and other people were manning the phones. He said, that's not using my skills. I know computers. I know the internet. And so he used his skills for the good, not even thinking, like, how can this be, like, a quote, how can I sell my book, or how can this be good for me media-wise?
Well, it's coming from a place of service.
So about that. So those are the kinds of things that can happen that are a different kind of measurable success.
Yes. And I love that. And I love where it's coming from, that service-based and helping, and it really... because that's what people remember people for. So I think that's brilliant. So we've talked about what to do. I want to talk about, what do you see that are the biggest mistakes people are making when they're on media?
Okay, good. Can I just say one more thing? Because I just remembered, like, when you were saying, what success have your clients have? Well, people who have taken my soundbite course. So like Dr. Ibrahim Jaffe, who's a medical doctor and a Sufi master, he got $200,000 from one speaking engagement because two people really believed in him and walked up and wrote him a check for $100,000 each.
Wow.
Yes.
That's just amazing.
Yes. So that's the kind of thing that, how can your life change in a moment? That's how it can change in a moment.
Yeah.
Because you've inspired 2 people only. So people go, I have to inspire millions.
It takes
No,
one.
It takes one.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's just one. That's the kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you're saying, what kind of mistakes do people make?
Yes. What do you see? Mm-hmm.
I see the biggest mistake that people make, a couple of big mistakes. Number one is the whole thing about not getting their systems set up and then saying that publicity doesn't work. The second biggest mistake, I think, is to be led around by the nose. We can't help it. And then people saying, taking the blame to the other person, to say, they led me off course. Because there's only always one person responsible for your behavior and what comes out your mouth, and it's a big job, right?
It is.
It's a big job.
But that's why you have your sound bites and you have it set up so that when it goes off, you can bring it back.
So the biggest thing is mastering yourself. If you master yourself, you master the media, and that takes practice.
Oh, yes.
It takes a lot of practice. And it takes practice in actual doing it. Like you can say, okay, well, how do you get good at doing live Skype interviews? By doing them.
Exactly.
Yes, by doing them, recording them, watching them, seeing what you're happy about with yourself, and seeing what you would change.
Exactly.
I mean, I do the same thing. I'll watch this and I'll go, oh, I was making a face there, or, I need to be more relaxed, or not use my hands so much, or whatever, because I'm Italian.
Yeah, me too. I'm all over the place.
But, so look at what you do well and what you could improve, and that's continuous practice and continuous improvement. And so the biggest thing for people in media is to really have their sound bites down. That is number one, because once you can start getting into a groove, and I was just talking about to one of my clients who's in the medical industry, who's and one of the things we were talking about is really the scientific nature of memory. And one of the things that we were talking about is, and making correlations for our own purposes, but one of the things that we were talking about is that what happens is when you know your sound bites really well, you can be free to be spontaneous, because what happens when you're under pressure and the hot lights are on you, and it's really scary. I mean, I've done it, quite a bit. It's really scary because they go 10, 9, 8. Actually, it's usually 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom! And then they ask you a question that you hadn't prepared. Yeah. And so under those circumstances, that's what people call deer in the headlights or brain freeze, is what happens is cortisol kicks in, which is the stress hormone, which blocks your short-term memory.
Oh.
So if you don't have that in your long-term memory and you've just worked on it the day before, you might not be able to access that.
Exactly.
And that's why you need to practice them and have them ingrained over and over and over again.
Right.
So you can say them under any circumstances, even if you are frozen, you can still take a breath and access that part of your brain.
That's amazing advice on all levels for any type of speaking, with webinars or telesummits or anything. So that's brilliant. I love that. So with the media today, because there's so many news channels out there, are there specific ones you should be focusing on?
Well, it depends on what your goals are. Like, do you want to be a regular news commentator? I mean, I have clients who want to be regular news commentators, want to be on the news every single week.
Oh, wow.
And get a regular spot. So the way that you get a regular spot is you have to first, like my one client who was on Fox News one time first, that was an audition. If she didn't do well, she wasn't going to get asked back.
Right.
So every time you're on TV, it is an audition, and there are people who want to get like regular spots. So you have to do well on the one spot. So you think about it, this is your opportunity, and that's why it's so important to prepare, because that opportunity then can lead to other opportunities. So my one client who was on another Fox News for the very first time, she was on a panel. And one of the things, and that's sometimes a little tough. So what we prepared for first is how to manage other people on a panel and how to manage your information. And we prepared like 4 sound bites of like 20 to 30 seconds each. And I said, when you get called on, you might need to say all of your sound bites at once, depending on how much time has elapsed and where they call you, in the process, depending on where you're sitting when you're called. And the first time that she was called, she only blurted out her first 30 seconds. And then there was another more aggressive woman who took up the rest of the time, most of the rest of the time, and one other man. So they never got to circle back to her for the rest of her sound bites. And we had practiced this over and over again in role play.
Yep.
And she said, "Oh my God, when it actually happened, I can't believe I didn't do what you said."
Yeah.
She said, "Because I realized afterwards I missed that opportunity because that other woman got it." And she said, "It's not going to happen again."
Yep. One mistake, but that's it.
Next time she was on, she took her time first. She took everything that we had practiced. She said it all in the one.
Perfect.
And then if she gets another chance, then we'd practice. We had prepared other things if she gets the next round. But she said her, 60 seconds.
Well, and you see that all the time in the news when people are debating and like one will be dominant and the other one, you want to hear them as a listener, but they can't get in.
Right. You have to learn to get in.
You have to learn to get in.
That's a skill as well.
Yeah.
So that's a separate kind of skill. So you asked me, what is the best media for you? And it really depends on where your audience is and what your goals are.
Perfect.
So I can't answer that for you. It's like, where are your people?
Right.
If your people, are your people watching Rachel Maddow, or are they watching Bill O'Reilly?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Or are they watching Oprah Soul Sunday? Or, are they watching Anderson Cooper? You have to figure out where your people are.
Yeah. I love that. Well, this has just been absolutely amazing, and just so much information. So the last thing I want to ask you is, well, two questions. One is, what future trends do you see for TV and broadcast media?
Well, one disturbing trend is that we're having more and more reality TV shows.
Oh, yes. It's an epidemic.
It is. And so I think that that's kind of a disturbing trend because of it's exemplifying bad behavior, and it's glorifying bad behavior. So I see that as a trend that then we're going to have a backlash for that. And because of all of the kind of disasters that we're saying, and this came out of a conversation that I was having with one of my clients this morning, talking about how people band together when there's a disaster, and that's really the American way, and how we are taking back our powerlessness by powering ourselves together. And that came out of a conversation that we were just having today, something that she's going to be talking about. But I think that there's going to be a backlash then to really, and again, a little bit against technology too, about how can we really create more communities together and create more physical communities, really people communities, like not texting communities.
Right.
So I think that that's going to be a new trend too, is that, yes, we're creating more more communities online, but I think there's going to be more people on people kind of communities.
I see that too, because the technology, it's blown up, but then the people still want that human connection at the end of the day, and
they really do.
They really do. So
you can't hug an image on the on Skype.
Yeah,
right?
a tweet's not gonna. It just doesn't. It's all great for business, but it doesn't have that same
not
that
like
same
crying
effect.
on your friend's shoulder.
Exactly. Yeah. Excellent. So the last question, the 5-minute makeover, the $1 million question. So if you had to start over today, all from scratch, without knowing any of the network that you've built and having any of the resources that you have today, what would you do and how would you rebuild your empire?
That was such a funny question. I've thought about that a lot because I thought, I really, I don't want to live a life with any regret for things that I haven't done. I don't really want to jump out of a plane. That's not one of my...
Oh, it's so much fun. You have to do it.
Is it? Have you done it?
Yes.
Really?
Skydiving is so much serious. You would love it. You would.
Okay.
You know what? Just really quick, a tangent off of this.
Yeah.
I was scared of it because I kind of was scared of heights growing up. I wouldn't go on roller coasters.
I'm scared of heights.
Well, but here's the difference. Your depth perception, like when you're on a roller coaster, like you see the ground coming towards you and you're like, ah.
Yes.
Skydiving's not like that. You're so far, you don't even realize, and then you only free fall for a minute and then you're just floating. So it's really
You're floating,
cool.
but then aren't you looking down and seeing the stuff below?
But you're really kind of looking out and about. It's kind of like you're in an airplane window, but you just got a nice, it's open. It's really not.
But then what about the fall, landing?
Oh, the landing's super easy because you come in, you still have the chute, and it comes in, and then you just land. You put your feet like that, so your body comes in, like you're sitting on a chair, boom, and you just land.
You scoot on your bum?
Well, yeah, because your legs are like when you're. I can't really demonstrate it, but these are your legs. You're coming in, And then what happens is you just put your legs up, kind of like, you just level them up, and then you just land right onto the beach or the ground or wherever you're at, kind of like you're on a slide.
Huh.
It's really, yeah. And you've got someone strapped to your back, so you're totally fine. But anyway, I think you should do it.
Your back. Like, that's a comfort.
It is, because they don't want to die.
That's great.
But it's a blast. But anyway, back to how you would rebuild your empire.
Yeah. So every day, if I do something or I think about something that I regret, you can't change the past, right? But I say to myself, what would I have done in that position? So the next time, if there's something similar, I can shift my behavior. Right. So I do look at that. So I would rework, a scenario maybe one or two different variations, different ways. So that's one of the things I do. But the thing, really, when my business shifted is when I stopped trying to separate like my artistic, creative side with business. I thought, I have to be all business. And instead, I thought I embraced my love of poetry. I brought it into, I love poetry. I love haiku. What does that have to do with sound bites? What does that have to do with publicity? All the artists that I work with a lot of artists and authors and entrepreneurs, and really pulling in the beauty that's really important, because I see my role really as a protector of beauty and to help people who want to get a message out into the world, that I am that vehicle to help them. I'm not that interested in the spotlight myself.
Right.
I'm much more interested in being the Oz behind the curtain.
Yeah.
That's me. I mean, that's not everybody. I mean, and I would like to help people like you who want to be in the spotlight.
Yeah.
But for me, that's not really it's just not of interest to me. I want to live an artistically beautiful, life in all regards. So my business shifted when I resisted that and stopped being and combined my artist aspect of myself. I love, like I said, beautiful things, beautiful clothes, beautiful food.
Yeah.
My
experiences.
The home. I beauty, aesthetic beauty. That's all of those things are really important to me. So then, the second thing that is still a challenge is technology. Like you and I right before, I'm like, how do I turn on my Skype recorder again? I was like, how am I going to learn this podcasting stuff? What kind of a mic do I have here? So technology has always been like tremendous. And the people who've succeeded, a lot of the people who've succeeded really understand how to measure, and shift results. So I did try to get Mike Koenig's to work for me really early on. This was way early in his career, and he was even too busy then. But I'm like, hey, Mike, can't you just take over the because he took over Ariel Ford's technology.
Right.
And I knew Ariel because she was a publicist, and I was a publicist at this time. So that's how we knew each other. And then I saw what Mike did for Ariel, and I wanted him to do it for me, because I knew that's not a part of my brain that is not my gift.
Right.
Right, that's not my gift.
Yep.
So I wanted Mike to take that over for me. And so still, if anybody out there is watching, I would still love to have that person just do all the technological crap.
Oh, I know. I hear you. I'm right there with you.
The measurements, all the stuff, all of those the super duper stuff that I don't really know how to do. I would love somebody to be able to do that. I think probably my business could be 10 times the size that it is now if I had someone doing that technological aspect for me.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. Do I wish I would have captured someone like Mike really early on, who is just as talented? Yes. And then now, if there is that person out there, hello, connect with me. Kris will tell you how.
Yes, they're out there. We're going to find someone to help you with that. Because I think that is probably the next biggest problem for all entrepreneurs.
I think so.
Is systematizing, getting the technical piece down, and getting ourselves out of the way and doing, what we're brilliant at, and spending. I mean, if I could do this all day long, this would be brilliant for me, But there are other things you have to manage in your business, obviously. But having that piece there, I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yes, and it depends on, and I'm talking about more sophisticated. I mean, obviously I have all of the e-zine and all of the webinar stuff down, but I'm talking about like really the sophisticated.
Yes.
The really sophisticated stuff. I'd love to be able to have someone else do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I love it. And I love how you're talking about owning who you really are. I think, and you work a lot with women. So I think that's a big deal for us as women, because more women are leaving corporate America and starting their own businesses at home than ever before.
Yes.
And I think, like, for me, it's been a struggle because I've always worked in male dominated industries, and it's having that.
Me too.
Yeah. And having that, you have to act like a man and be like in the boys club and that type of scenario that in corporate America. But when you get into a different space, you get to have your soul back, like you talk about. But, you really get to share your gifts through your own personality and your unique offering. So I think that's really brilliant to say that. So, well, this was absolutely fantastic.
It was.
I know the listeners got a ton out of this. I know with our show notes, we're going to have it chock full of all your information and details. So where can everybody go find out about you?
They can go to prsecrets.com, and there they can get either a special report on my blog. If you want to get a report on prsecrets.com/blog, you can get, I think it's 5 ways to get on the Today Show tomorrow.
Ooh, fantastic.
Yeah, and if you sign up for my e-zine, you'll also get print interview secrets. So how to get print interview secrets. Because I think people start on print first. Mm-hmm. So because print is the slowest. So that's where you really want to start. It goes print, radio. Actually, internet is kind of before print because you don't have to talk.
Right.
But then it's internet, print, radio, TV. That's the progression. Yeah. So at prsecrets.com, you can get either one of those 2 things and start to get introduced to my community, because I have lots of free stuff and free articles there for people to get started.
Yes. And I have to give a shout out for you, Susan. Literally, we met just a few weeks ago, virtually. Yeah. And just within 2 calls of working with Susan, she has completely transformed. I'm launching a new brand. And so it's been a emotional mindset kind of chaos for me of how to bring podcasting into my new brand. And she dovetailed it beautifully in less than, 2 hours. It's just amazing. Your gift is so amazing on how you help people with sound bites. So I just want to share that. But
thank you. And you know what I'm going to be offering in my new website? Just an FYI. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know when this is coming out exactly, but on my new website, I'm going to have a super quick strategy session.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so it'll be a 75 to 90 minute strategy session. So if anybody wants to zero in and do like the kind of thing that you're doing, or zero in on any aspect of their business, what I'm really looking for to do there is I find what I call your joy spot, which is where joy and profit connect. And that's really what we're looking for, because a lot of people don't know where that is.
Yep.
And what that is. So or whatever it is that you want to work on. So that's something that I'm going to be, maybe by the time this comes out, that will be up.
Perfect. Well, good. I'm looking forward to that. That's fantastic, because you're brilliant with that. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. This was fabulous. Great to have you.
It was really fun. Thank you, Kris.
And I hope you enjoyed that episode. I'd love to get your feedback here for the Lifestylepreneur podcast right in iTunes. Simply leave us a 5-star and a review letting us know what you like, who you're interested in hearing more from, and what topics you really want help with in your business, that I can bring on those key experts to really fine tune and help you in your business and creating the lifestyle of your dreams. And I'll be giving shout outs, so make sure you put your name and your website address if you want me to share that with the community as well. And again, thanks for listening. I'm so excited that you found the Lifestylepreneur podcast, and I can't wait to connect with you and learn more about your business as we continue to grow this community. So again, have a great day, and I'll talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Lifestylepreneur podcast. Again, I'm Kris Gilbertson, and I'm committed to bringing you top training from leading lifestylepreneurs all over the world to help you break through and turn your dreams into your ideal lifestyle. And make sure to join us at www.lifestyleacademy.com to receive VIP training from specific guests I interview on the show, so that you can really easily start to implement what you've learned from listening. I know we're all busy, and sometimes we don't have time to listen to the entire podcast or take notes, because I'm always listening on the go. So I like to call it the Lifestyle Cliff Notes to creating your ideal business and make it really simple for you. So those will be set via the email list. Plus, I also want to connect with you personally, and being on the Lifestyle Academy mailing list is where all the magic happens. We'll host VIP trainings once a month that we can't always bring out on the podcast with even more detailed information. And I also want to connect with you personally. I want to know what's going on in your business and what you need help with and who I can bring on to aid you in creating your ideal lifestyle. And so I'll be asking questions every once in a while that I want you to reply, and I reply back to you personally. So again, until next time, wishing you on your way to achieving all of your dreams. Talk to you soon.